It is Nerd News Monday at 10 o'clock p.m. on the west coast of the United States. It is 0500 GMT. This is cBas After Dark, Nerd News Monday. As always, we look at the news that is affecting nerds around the world every single Monday night at 10 o'clock p.m. on the west coast of the United States. And you can call me, area code 310-776-5867. That's area code 310-776-Coons. Is my last name. Again, Nerd News Monday. If you're on the Periscope, you'll see me. If you're watching on YouTube and Gmail, you'll see me glancing over here. These are my Periscope friends. And if you're on Periscope, you'll see me glancing off this direction. That's the actual main broadcast on YouTube and Gmail. I do encourage you to watch me there because while I try to sort of bring the camera over and share the screen, it's not always possible to see everything on Periscope quite as smoothly as it is. So if you really want to watch seriously, go ahead and watch, maybe look up cBas After Dark, cBas After Dark on YouTube. I'm on my YouTube account. It's on my G+. My hair looks like shit, but it's okay because it's Nerd News Monday. All right, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. One of the things I'm going to talk about literally came tonight. And by the way, if you're on Periscope, shoot me a heart, send me a follow. Most importantly, talk to me because this is not a monologue. This is meant to talk about nerd news thing. Thank you for the hearts. Oh yeah, somebody told me this is my first nerd topic of the thing. Somebody was like, I like to do the thing where I gobble up the hearts. This is stolen from the thing. There's a guy who does the sock on Periscope. Have you seen the sock cop where he's got his hand in his sock with sunglasses and he talks and it's actually really funny? He does the chomping of the hearts. And so I thought, well, I could just do a little duck thing eating the hearts. Here's the thing. Somebody called me and told me, dude, you're on the wrong side of the screen with the gobbling. So I have to go like this to gobble the hearts. It doesn't look like I'm gobbling them up to me, but it will look like it to you that I'm gobbling up the hearts by doing this here. Gobble, 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 gobble. So yes, you see? So now I'm gobbling up the hearts. Gobble, 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 gobble. I don't know why that is amusing to me, but it fucking is amusing as hell. I really think that's badass. Nerd News After Dark. That was thing number one. And thank you, Mark Trupner, for the tip because that is my friend who told me about doing that. And Mark Trupner also gets credit for the first actual item on Nerd News Monday. I'm a big fan of the iPhone. I'm also a decent fan of Android. I go both ways, if you will. And I will tell you this, Mark posted perhaps one of the coolest things I have seen on Facebook in a while. And I thought I knew the Siri tricks. I thought I was schooled in Siri, and it turns out maybe not as much as I thought I was. Here's the trick. And if you have an iPhone, do it. You may or may not be able to hear fully what Siri is saying, but it's worth hearing. I'm going to try and divide 0 by 0. Or what is 0 divided by 0? Is that how you're supposed to do it?
Imagine that you have 0 cookies and you split them evenly among 0 friends. How many cookies does each person get? See, it doesn't make sense. And Cookie Monster is sad that there are no cookies. And you are sad that you have no friends.
Okay, if you didn't catch that, I'm going to try and do it really fast. Imagine if you have 0 cookies and divide it amongst 0 friends. You see, it doesn't make sense, she says. And gobble, 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 gobble. It doesn't make sense to divide 0 cookies amongst your 0 friends. And then she goes on. She says, and Cookie Monster is sad there are no cookies. And you are sad that you have no friends. And it's like, dude, that is gold. That is absolutely solid gold. On the screen, it says 0 divided by 0 equals indeterminate. And if you've been any kind of computer programming person or done any kind of math class, you're aware that division by 0 is not a thing. It literally doesn't make sense. If you have 10, if you're dividing it by 2, 10 cookies divided into 2 groups is 5. If you have 10 cookies divided into 0 groups, you can't divide something into no groups. That doesn't make any sense. So absolute solid gold. 2 extra credits for my buddy Mark out in the universe, in the small town in California where I spent many moons and am proud to call him a good friend and now a contributor to the Nerd News Network here on cBas After Dark on Monday nights. Other things to talk about. I mean, I could seriously do that all night long because thank you, my friend. Siri is a great thing to do. If you ever talk to Siri about HAL 9000, Do you know HAL 9000?
I can't answer that.
See, they took the jokes out. There was a thing, don't ask me about Hal, or she. Do you know HAL 9000? It said
I'm
Howl.
sorry, you sexy motherfucker. I'm afraid I can't answer that.
Did you catch what Siri called me there? She said, I'm sorry, you sexy motherfucker. And the reason is if you go by Siri and you tell her, call me so-and-so, she'll respond with, so you want me to call you so-and-so? Ding. And then you say, yes. Okay. From now on, you're so-and-so. If I ask her, what is my name?
You're Sebastian. But since we are friends, I get to call you you sexy motherfucker.
Did you catch that? You're Sebastian, but since we're friends, I get to call you you sexy motherfucker. This is a nerd thing I stole from The Big Bang Theory. I will admit that straight away. It was the TV sitcom The Big Bang Theory on CBS television, now 8th season and going for, I think, 2 more. Very successful, very funny if you're into nerd humor. I know many people who don't find that show funny, and by all rights, they should. They're either into comic books in a way, or they're into Star Wars, or something. They're just intellectuals. They work at a university. I know a lot of people for whom this show should resonate, and it doesn't. So it's not universally funny by any means. In the same way Seinfeld is not universally funny, or Modern Family isn't. But I find both of those shows hilarious as well. Raj on The Big Bang Theory said... something I forget. He's having his kind of relationship. He's getting to know Siri. He's talking to Siri all the time. Raj is the guy in the show who cannot talk to girls. He has an inability, selective mutism, they call it, and it's a psychological thing where he can't talk to beautiful women. And he's going back and forth with Siri because he can talk to this girl because she's not real. And she's like, do you want me to call you Raj? Question mark. And he's all, I'd like you to call me sexy. And she's like, okay, from now on, I'll call you sexy. And then for the rest of the show, every time he talks to Siri, okay, sexy, there are 4 coffee shops near you, you know. And I took that and I decided to see if it would go one step further to the profanity level. I've had it for a couple of years now. And as a teacher in Mexico, when I was an English teacher in Mexico, it was funny to me that I could always ask questions. My students, you know, I would never unveil it to all of my students, but every so often I would, you know, search for images of a passport visa, you know, things like that. And they all thought, you know, it's cool enough to be able to pull up a picture of any passport visa or any picture from Google on your phone at all at a, you know, a voice command kind of a thing. But many of them, even though they had iPhones, found the Siri trick, search the web for, you know, tacos campeche or something like that. And then they would come up. They all thought just doing that was super cool. And they thought of me as kind of their nerdy teacher that they really liked on that basis. And I mean, actually, the only reason I know that is I got feedback from supervisors later that would say, yeah, you know, you're really good with the online stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know. And then they like the tricks you do with your phone. And I'm like, these are not tricks, you know, they all have the same phone. I encourage them to do it. The thing about Siri, she's not big on accents. So unless you have your phone set to do Spanish, if you speak in English to Siri with an accent, Siri's going to have trouble understanding you. And it doesn't matter what kind of accent you have, as it turns out. If you have a British accent, or, I mean, there are settings to adjust for that, I think, in this day and age. But Siri has a bit of trouble sometimes with accents. Okay, let's talk nerd news. I had some things interesting that I wanted to talk about. Maybe you heard about the Google undo option. How about that for a trick we've all wished for at a time in the past? Being able to click undo after you send an email. This comes to us from the good information website wired.com. I'll switch to it over if you're watching on YouTube. I'll try to show you the screen here on Periscope in a moment. Well, heck. Here we go. Okay. Here is the article from Wired magazine. And I mean, think about it. To be able to unsend an email, that's something. It's not unlimited. You can't just unsend anything now, but it does have some improvement over the old way of doing email. Let's look at this here. I'll show you the screen as well. Okay. Plagued by sender's remorse, Google's finally releasing its fix to one of your most serious email woes. Undo send is finally available. How to unsend email has to be the defining desperation query of the internet. And finally, there is the answer. The undo feature is heading out of the labs and will be an option for all Gmail users, at least via web. This may not work on your phone, in other words. You can see it right here. Enable undo send, and you can tell it the amount of time you want to be able to have between when you click send and when it actually goes out. I think it only goes up to 30 seconds, so it's not, unlimited. The feature has been available to lab users for some time, and though it doesn't exactly let you pluck an email from a user's inbox if you encounter regret, it does afford you a few extra moments for a few extra seconds for an oh shit moment before your words are eternally surrendered to the ether. Navigate to your settings. You can click, and you have to click enable undo send. So you have to turn it on here, and then a drop down lets you customize the feature 5, 10, 20, or 30 seconds. This author says, I've got mine set to 30 because A, you can never be too careful, and B, it's as close as you can get to 24 hours. Keep in mind, undo send will not help you if you wake up riddled with regret the morning after sending a novella-length email to an ex, which is funny. But giving your words a final once-over and you find a typo, you might have to be able to rescue it from the clutches of the internet before your incorrect use of there is immortalized in someone else's inbox. And that's a good function to have. I mean, as an English teacher, I should say, I never do the there error. I'm actually really good with there, and there. But that said, that's a useful function to be able to say you have, definitely. I really like that. Let's see. Let's talk about other things here. What was the other topic I was going to talk about? Oh, yes. Apple Watch. I do not have it. If you were fooled by my little sleeve trick, I got all kinds of tricks up my sleeve. No, not really. But I do think that that's going to be something, wearables are getting bigger. You're either of one kind or the other kind. You're either of the kind of person who desperately wants this phone yesterday, or you're the kind of person who does not see the point at all, right? Like, there's not really people who are kind of in between, I don't think. And if you know me at all, you know that I am of the I cannot have it soon enough category. Now, right now in my kind of, let's call it my job state, which is in flux at the moment. I do have a job being an English teacher, and it's good. It's actually an online job, and it's actually really good. I just got off with some of my, let me correct that in case you're a dirty-minded person. I just got done with one of my English classes, there are students from all over Latin America. One of them is from Guatemala, one of them is from Colombia, one of them is from Bolivia, one of them is in Mexico City, and then one of them is from Mexico but is living in New Jersey, like that kind of a thing. And it's very cool. OpenEnglish.com. I'm happy to say I work for them, and they're actually really cool at being able to sort of, let teachers do their thing their own way and be creative, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so my point in deviating from my topic was that I'm an English teacher, not exactly getting rich. And so the Apple Watch is going to be something I have to wait for. It turns out that's probably a good thing, because the Apple Watch is not what we call a perfect technology quite yet. I think it's probably safe to say the Apple Watch is going to get better. Think back to the first iPhone. I never had the first iPhone. The first iPhone I had was the iPhone 3. I still have it. I still have all my iPhones, except for the one that I left on the bus in Mexico. And to the asshole who took it and did not turn it into the lost and found, God damn, am I coming for you someday. In fact, the funny thing about that, another diversion just for a second. Part of the reason I never got my iPhone back was the battery life. I don't think this is too thick of a phone. This is the iPhone 4, my older phone that I had before I ever went to Mexico. Is this really too thick? I don't think so. And in fact, other articles I've seen were like the Apple unhealthy obsession with making things thinner. I do not think once it's this thin, it needs to be thinner, especially at the expense of battery life. And that's the thing. That's what it costs you. If you are into this thin thing, that's fine, but your phone's only going to last 12 hours with any kind of use. And and it will get less and less because batteries that are thinner will have a tendency to die, I think, quicker. So I'm okay with keeping it this thick if if it means being able to use it for an extra 8 hours or 6 hours a day, you know. And the Apple Watch has battery problems. The Apple Watch has sort of user interface problems. The Apple Watch is not perfect yet. And if I had the money, the truth is I would already have the first one and would be kind of probably regretting that I had spent that much money on a stupid watch that doesn't do a lot of the things that, frankly, the iPhone has done for several generations now. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Now they're talking about what to put on the surface of the watch, okay? We all know Apple iPhones have what on them? Say it with me, Gorilla Glass. If you're new to the thing, and maybe you don't know, Gorilla Glass is a specially formulated glass that is a lot tougher. It's a lot more scratch resistant. I've had this phone for how long? I mean, God, it has to be 2012, right? I mean, over 3 years. That's a long time to have a cell phone in this day and age. And this is the one I thought was sexiest because glass on the front, but also glass on the back. And it turns out this is just another glass surface that can now get broken. But notice I haven't broken it after 3 years. And this was like, you know, my powerhouse phone for a while. Excuse me just one second. I'm going to get my beverage here. I just realized I'm frothing at the mouth and I'm not able to have my lovely beverage. Okay. Thank you for putting up with that. Thank you. Okay. Sapphire. Now, sapphire is a crystal, not a glass. It is stronger than Google Glass. Let me switch over to the article here. It's more expensive. It's more energy intensive to create. And there's some things I did not know about sapphire. As much as I thought, wow, how cool to have. There were rumors that the iPhone 6 was going to have a sapphire screen because of the breakage potential, right? You drop this the wrong way on a rock or something like that. If it can concentrate the force in any one spot, you'll have spider webs all across your screen. I had a phone, I think it might have been my first iPhone 3. This is my second iPhone 3 because I did break one. And I had the screen later replaced, but you know, I had the front and the back broken, and it's pretty sad. Once you see a phone that has a cracked screen, that's pretty sad. But let's talk about whether or not the Apple Watch will get a sapphire crystal. Many watches, certainly a lot of expensive watches, have sapphire crystals because sapphire is incredibly hard. Let's look at the article here. Almost scratch-proof under normal use, but sapphire is expensive, it says, so most watches, of course, have a glass crystal instead, which is not as hard scratch-resistant as sapphire, but it still holds up. Is there a visual difference? Well, a glass crystal would be about 20% brighter if you held up two identical watches because of fundamental principles of optics that reduce the light transmission. So it's harder for light to travel through sapphire than glass. I didn't realize that. It appears somewhat darker and duller, particularly because the light has to pass through the crystal twice. And then for traditional watches, these are for watches where the light of the room, ambient light, reflects off the watch face, and that's how you see the time. This does not, this is different when you're talking about a smart watch because it's a screen. You're not just looking at something through a glass pane. You're actually looking at a screen. It needs to be touch sensitive. And if it has to work harder, if it has to be brighter in order to get through the sapphire material, that's going to kill your battery life. And I didn't realize this. Look at this sentence here. Sapphire has almost double the reflectance of glass. In other words, it's more reflective. Minimizing screen reflections is extremely important because not only is it harder for light to get through it, it reflects more. So essentially, you have to kind of get it through twice. Virtually all displays work by emitting image light rather than reflecting ambient light, thus blah, 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 blah. This is a very kind of wordy article, but I really think it's fascinating. We'll show below how large and how important the reflectance effect is by comparing a display on an Apple Watch with a sapphire crystal to an identical display on an Apple Watch Sport that has Ion X glass. I don't know about Ion X glass. That may be a new version of Gorilla Glass. The Apple Watch covers are perfect for this comparison because they're identical except for their sapphire and glass covers. So yeah, the best way they're saying to improve performance, image contrast, color saturation, screen visibility, and readability, all of these things are important factors to have a screen on a watch. And the best way they're saying to do it the most efficient way, the smartest way, is to lower the reflectance of the screen. And that kind of suggests you don't need a Sapphire watch, at least a Sapphire, watch cover. And they go on and on about the results and testing and so on and so on. I will say this. You don't see a lot of people with broken watch faces. Now, most watches, as this thing said, most watch faces actually are glass, right? I have a million watches and I wear none of them anymore because, you have your time here and you have it here and you have it in the corner of this screen and you have it in the corner of this screen. And it's like, at some point, I liked comedian Mitch Hedberg, who is now dead, God rest his soul. But Mitch Hedberg had a great joke about watches. He's like, I don't wear a watch because I want my two arms to weigh the same. And that's pretty fucking funny. But the thing is, I don't like jewelry. I was never a jewelry guy. I once wore an earring in one ear because that was kind of the fashion in the 80s and the 90s. But the truth is, the only real jewelry I find interesting or intriguing or attractive at all is a cool wristwatch. So if you ever buy me a gift, do not buy me a necklace or a bracelet or one of those man ankle bracelet things that I guess some people wear or used to wear. But get me a watch. I will wear a watch. Absolutely. I love any kind of timepiece because for me, it's not just decorative. It's also functional. And for me and my weird logic brain, that's important. So yeah, it's got to be functional. And that's why the Apple Watch is so attractive to me, right? Not only is it functional in that it displays time like any watch does, it does a million other things too. Check your, your Twitter or your text messages or see the weather or, a schedule, acknowledge a schedule notification or something like that. There's a million things that this watch does. Most of the reviews on the Apple Watch seem to suggest it's really not there yet. And if you think back, like I keep saying, if you think back to the evolution, sort of the growth between the iPhone now and the iPhone 1 or the iPhone 2, right? Back when having YouTube on your phone was a big deal in like 06, 07, whenever it was. I remember, I still think I might have somewhere the voicemail of my friend Tyler who said, yeah, I got the iPhone. He was bragging. He was calling and left me a voicemail because I was kind of saying how I was going to stay away from the iPhone. I did stay away from the first iPhone and the second. And he was bragging. He's like, yeah, I got the iPhone, got full YouTube on my phone. Call me, bro. It was like, dude, shut up. Just shut up. Like I didn't need that. Now, I had a phone that also had YouTube. They called it the iPhone Killer. It was through a company called Helio that no longer exists. The phone had a skateboarding name. I want to say it was called the Kickflip. And yeah, both that phone and the company are now completely defunct as far as I'm aware. So yeah, iPhone Killer my ass, but at the time I wasn't sure the iPhone was going to take off, right? I don't think it's probably as much of a thing to say that the Apple Watch isn't going to take off. Clearly, it's probably onto something. Clearly, people like wearables. I mean, they like, have you seen the Motorola one? It's damn sexy. It's a big round face, kind of like a traditional watch. If I had to complain one thing about the Apple Watch, that square shape does not agree with me in a kind of aesthetic way. I'm not sure I like how it looks. I like the Motorola one a whole lot. I like the Samsung one. I never had a Samsung phone. You need a Samsung phone to pair with the Samsung Gear watch. But one of my students in Mexico had it. Many of my students in Mexico were petroleum workers and had a lot of money. So they often had good gadgets. And that was often a topic we would talk about. And one of them had his Samsung Gear watch. And it was this really sexy bronze color metal. And it had a camera facing, if you're looking at your watch like this way, it had a camera that would go that way. Brilliant. And the best part was he pulls out, some people have two phones. He pulls out his non-Samsung phone and calls himself on his watch. Hello. And I was like, oh, yes. I must have it. I must have it immediately. And one of the reasons, say it with me, Star Trek. Yes. Captain Kirk in the first Star Trek movie had a wrist communicator. Now, in the old series, it was a handheld flip thing, which is where we got the flip phone from. Let's just say it. And it did not continue past the movie. That's the thing. The wrist communicator was something that was only in one of the 6 Captain Kirk movies of Star Trek. So I guess people like the traditional do hello Kirk to Enterprise beam me up, and thus the sort of aesthetic of this or whatever they were doing really didn't fly. But everything from Dick Tracy to Captain Kirk in that one movie, it was all in the commercials for the wrist phone. I think it was in a Samsung commercial. They actually did a Dick Tracy thing and a Captain Kirk thing and, whatever the hell else. It's going to be the future, and it's pretty badass. My ex-boyfriend on the train, shit, I even forgot this story because of how badly it kind of ended between us. But the reason we got together, the reason we met was his smartwatch. I think it was connected to his phone. Because I remember this had to be 2011. I'm trying to remember. But I never talked to anybody on the train. That was kind of a thing. Trains, especially in the smartphone era, are very kind of, you're in your own zone, you're on your computer, you have your earbuds in, you have your sunglasses on, you're shielded from the world, essentially, right? And so I didn't talk to people. But we got on the train and got off the train at the same stop. So we'd seen each other. But I'm often of the mindset, especially when I'm single, that nobody's looking at me. Nobody gives a crap about me. I'm not anything to see or anything, whatever. So, but we kind of had that knowledge of each other and knew each other. So I saw him on the train one day and he sat like one seat up from me. And I was kind of one seat over. So I could sort of see what he was doing from behind. And I heard his text go. I heard his phone ding. But instead of pulling out his phone, he goes like this. And then done again. And he pulls his sleeve back over it. And I was like, excuse me, what did you just do? It was the time when it was not common yet. Or even the concept was really not there yet. He was a forward-thinking guy, this guy. And he's like, I got a text. I was answering a text. That's all he said. He was trying to be very cool about it in an era when it was not a common concept. And I was like, really? That's connected, that's Bluetooth to your phone? He said, yeah. I said, wow. And I was like, all right. And I'll finish the story just because I'm down this road already. So then I go on Twitter. I'm like, I just saw the coolest fucking thing, but I don't want to say it here because I don't want anybody to know what it was that I just saw. I don't want anybody else to get it before me. That's what I said on Twitter. I want to be the first. I don't want anybody who I know to get this before me. And then he was a Twitter follower of mine. And I didn't Twitter direct to me. He's all too late. And I had to really put that together because I'm like, too late. So you already have. And then I'm like, bah, that's him. He's on my Twitter. He's the one on the train. And it was a love story made in heaven for a few months anyway. Did not end well at all. I'm nearly not over it, so we're not going to talk further about it, and I'm not going to say his name, but it's a little bit humid in the little studio tonight. I want to tell you, it's a little bit warm. Maybe I'll turn on just 1 second while I turn on the air conditioning. I'll try not to because it is so. We have a lot of summer thunderstorms happening as well. And the summer thunderstorms really make the humidity go. Now they're cool. If you've seen me periscoping at all, do follow me on Periscope, by the way, because I do sort of like to turn on the phone and show the storms and stuff. I'm determined to get on the Weather Channel one day with a live weathercast from a monsoon storm. It has to be really severe, though, because I guess they get a lot of that. All right. Anyway. What else I want to talk about? Blah, blah, blah with phones. I guess the point was you don't see a lot of people with a broken crystal on their phones. That Sapphire thing on the iPhone watch is not going to be necessary. It doesn't really seem necessary on the phones, which is why you don't really see it. And also the other thing, and I mentioned this in the beginning, it takes a lot of heat energy to sort of make it happen, to make the Sapphire thing happen and to cut it and to mold it into the shape that you want and be able to do all that stuff with the Sapphire. It's not easy. It's pretty energy intensive and it's expensive as hell. So yeah, there's that. What else? I mean, there's more. You could actually read that article on Gizmodo. It's a pretty good article to see and to enjoy. I have all these food stories. We did not do a fast food, junk food podcast on Saturday. Look for it this Saturday. If you happen to be around on the 4th of July, me and my partner Sarah are going to do a extravaganza of fast food and junk food news. I've been saving up stories. It's been a busy couple of weeks as far as fast food news, but then we ended up not doing a story. We ended up not doing a show on Saturday because she was away and I was away and blah, blah, blah. Here's a good article. Do you like cilantro? Cilantro is a spice. It was on many, many tacos in Mexico when I was there for a year. I developed a pretty good taste for cilantro. I like it, but some people really despise it. Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang Theory is a perfect example. Sheldon Cooper does not like cilantro. In fact, what was it? There was an episode where he's moving out and they can't figure out why, and one of the theories they toss is, did you cook with cilantro? No. Did you make fun of trains? No. And they eventually figure it out. But let's see. Let me pull up the article and we can see about cilantro. Apparently, some people think cilantro tastes like soap. What the fuck? How can cilantro taste like soap? Well, science is now explaining why cilantro tastes like soap. And we have the article here from the folks at HuffPo. Take a look. I've never heard of this. Now, it's kind of like the thing if you have asparagus. If you eat asparagus, maybe you're aware, maybe you're not, that it makes certain people have the genetic thing where it makes your urine smell funny very fast after you eat it. The funny thing is there are 25% of people for whom that's true, and then there are 25% of people who can't smell the smell. So you may not even be aware of what this is. There's a concept because you are genetically disposed to not know it. Okay, let's look at this. Science explains why cilantro tastes like soap for certain people. Even a YouTube video, which we won't really watch. Playing YouTube videos on this broadcast thing sometimes gets you in trouble. But when people say they hate cilantro, they often attribute this to a soapy aftertaste. 4 to 14% of the population have this happen. And it's very similar to the, let's just call it the asparagus thing. He explained, this guy, SciShow's Hank Green explains, after conducting a few separate studies, scientists were able to pin down most cilantro haters as people with a shared group of olfactory receptor genes called OR6A2. These people pick up on the smell of aldehyde chemicals. Aldehyde chemicals are found in both cilantro and soap. It's not really your fault. You can blame your parents, and they suggest swapping parsley for cilantro for those people. Again, this is a thing that I had not heard of, but I love reading about because I am one of the people for whom the asparagus effect is an effect. Like, I eat asparagus, and within moments, it's almost like, certainly the next time you go to the bathroom, it's like, geez. And I'm not proud of that. I can't help it, but it's just genetic. The one thing I really liked was when Alton Brown on the Food Network, the nerdy food guy on the Food Network, maybe you know, talks about how it's a genetic thing. It's like 25% of the people have it, and another 25% of the people can't smell it. They have no ability to smell that smell. And he even tags it with this line. So if you're one of those 25%, you don't even know what I'm talking about. And I thought, yeah, that's really funny as well. Going on. Let's see here. Oh, God, not the testicle-chomping nutcracker fish. Oh, good Lord. Oh, gosh. I'm sort of going through the nerd stories. I feel like I want to try and make sure I'm as... Okay, here we go. Origami batteries. What the hell? Origami batteries. Okay, this is actually something that came from Arizona State, my alma mater, the place where I went to college. By the way, call, participate, chat, comment, text, tweet, everything. The phone number, 310-776-COONS. That's 310-776-5867. You'll hit my cell phone here. And if you also would like to text that number, you can. Send me a text message. I'll read it. If you're on Periscope, send me a comment or a heart. If you're on Twitter, send me a tweet. I could go on and on, just the different ways to contact me. The point, I don't want this to just be a monologue, which it usually turns out to be. That's okay. Moving right along. Here's another good story. This ASU engineering project, an ASU engineering team has a stretchable battery. a version of the paper folding art of origami. It's in the running to be selected as one of the most innovative technologies to hit the scene on 2015 on QMed, which is a medical device industry website. Okay. And because I went to ASU, I subscribed to the ASU alumni stuff on Twitter and Facebook and so on. And let's take a look at this QMed thing. Just the most impressive technologies of 2015. And there's round one. So let's see here. There's a whole bunch of them. And injecting electronics into the brain. Hello, Borg from Star Trek The Next Generation. Origami-inspired batteries. 3D printing of graphene electrical ink. Terminator 2-inspired 3D printing. A computer that runs on water. The world's first lab-grown biolimb, biodegradable food vessels, and blood can't cling to super nonstick coating. Okay. So let's look at the slideshow. Can we see it? Okay. Injecting electronics versus origami batteries. Let's just look at all of them before we comment on all of them, I guess. Check out those batteries, though. They're in little folding foil packets, it looks like. That's pretty amazing. Here we can read about them. Researchers have created nanoscale electronic scaffolds, that's here, that can be injected via syringe. Read more on QMed. Well, we'll look at that in a second. The one I like is the lithium-ion battery that can flex more than 150% of its original size, enabling it to be used in wearables and smart clothing. How about that? The secret is a variation of a variation on origami called kirigami. Sean Choi, a Binghamton University engineer, says he's developed an inexpensive bacteria-powered battery made from folded paper. I sort of want to comment briefly on battery technology. Think about that for a second. All of the battery technology that we use in all of our devices is based on the old school of the chemistry inside the battery and the physical construction of it, right? The guy from Tesla has the really cool, that big home battery that goes on your wall, whatever it is, the wall battery that will make solar energy a lot more sort of efficient and realistic. I don't know. I think battery technology and the people with the cleverness of it is just, it's going to change a whole bunch of the world. Graphene electrical ink is the next pair. Let's look at this here. Graphene electrical ink versus Terminator 2 inspired 3D printing. I'm not even sure I understand the first one. 3D printing of graphene electrical ink. Lawrence Livermore lab researchers think their new type of graphene aerogel could enable better energy storage, sensors, nanoelectronics, and more. Apparently this is a photo of it here. I'm still not sure exactly what I see, but you can see it on a dime, so you can get a sense of the scale. And then Terminator 2 inspired 3D printing. Professors at UNC Chapel Hill tout a new T2 inspired clip technology pictured that promises printing speeds 25 to 100 times faster than conventional 3D printers. Pretty amazing. And again, I'm not sure I even wrap my brain around it. Matchup 3. Okay, there's a bloody gross picture there, which I'm not necessarily wild about. Biodegradable blood vessels and super nonstick coating. Okay, that was kind of a gross picture, but think about that. A super hydrophobic coating could prove useful for medical device applications, or Austrian researchers who've developed thermoplastic polyurethane-based artificial blood vessels which degrade, triggering the growth of new blood vessels. So, all right, that sounds pretty amazing if you need replacement blood vessels for whatever. The computer that runs on water versus the lab-grown biolimb. Okay, again, talk about your weird, bizarre, sci-fi sounding stuff. Growing a biolimb in a lab. Now, let's stop there for a second, because holy crap, right? Like, growing a limb in a lab, you know, not just a prosthetic, right? Now, we've talked about on this show a couple of times the prosthetics and the link with 3D printers there. Because prosthetics are notoriously expensive and have to be custom done for pretty much every patient. And with so many war veterans coming back with such, you know, severe amputation injuries, the whole concept of prosthetics is going to be an extremely expensive thing going forward, and it's going to be much more common, which is very sad. But with 3D printers now coming about, I think I saw a story on one of the TV news things that was like they were able to print it for a mind-boggling. They can design it on the computer, completely customized to one person's need. If they need to attach it at this point in the arm or at the elbow or further down or whatever the need is. If it were an arm amputation, they can 3D print one. It was for a kid, and that was the thing: is as the kid grows, the prosthetic they're gonna outgrow the prosthetic, just like they'll outgrow their clothes. Well, think about needing a new $30,000 prosthetic every 2 years or more often, right? If we can do that with 3D printing technology, that's damn amazing. And, not only is it damn amazing from a sheer technology perspective, the price drop is also pretty remarkable. I'm going to turn off the loud-ass air conditioner because it's loud. Hey, how about that? Maybe that's a technology we need. We actually need a technology that allows for quiet air conditioning at a reasonable price. Okay. Let's go back to the article here because I didn't even know about the computer that runs on water either, by the way. That's something else worth knowing about. In fact, that may be the first one of these that I'm actually going to click on. Read more on QMed. All right, let's read more about the computer that runs on water. Sometimes even doing the Nerd News show, I learned things that I thought I knew about already. Okay. Designing a computer that runs on water. It's not a good idea usually to get computer electronics wet, but researchers at Stanford are building a synchronous computer powered by moving water droplets. I doubt this video will get us into copyright trouble, so let's just see it.
Stanford University.
I think I know that voice lady.
All the way from a Jacquard loom to the Babbage machines to the very early electronic computers, the fundamentals have been about manipulation of information. Computation and computers are bound by the laws of physics, primarily because bits are physical entities. That notion implies that you can use computers to actually manipulate matter.
We don't want to manipulate information because this is something that your electronic computer can actually do. What we have implemented is a platform where we utilize exactly the same techniques to manipulate water droplets.
Droplets are fascinating as a material because they're a little bag. You can put anything you want in it. And in the field of microfluidics, there are thousands of applications people have explored that utilize these droplets as little beakers.
We're going to use them to transport physical materials inside them. Let them be chemical components, biological components that you can analyze, synthesize very fast and very efficiently.
We utilize a ferrofluid droplet, which is primarily just essentially a floating liquid magnet.
This system of coils
Floating
generates the
liquid magnet,
magnetic
okay.
fields that act as a clock to the system. The water droplets respond to the magnetic fields that are generated by the coils. On our microfluidic chips, we have these tracks of metallic bars that get magnetized.
They look like little T and I bars. The way you would organize them on a two-dimensional surface gives you arbitrary control of a magnetic landscape.
Okay.
Just by changing the layout of the metallic bars, we can do any logic operation that exists.
We want to take that exact system and keep making it smaller and smaller and faster so that it can do more operations per time, can work with smaller sample sizes, and can do more complex reactions.
It's not about manipulating information faster, but it's about manipulating matter faster. And that is a capability that we have not had until now. It allows us to manipulate this material in a fundamentally new way.
Wow. So are you dazzled yet? Like, are you as confused as me as far as, I mean, one of the risks of doing this damn Nerd News thing, and I learned this, I think the first topic where I came across this was the topic of quantum computing, where I'm literally trying to report on something that I don't understand what it is, what it does, how it works. You know, try being a news reporter sometime and report on a topic you have no concept of. Not only what it is, which is hard enough, the fundamentals of it, but how to even talk about why it's important, or, you know, not how it works, but just, you know, how to even describe the concept in a way that regular human beings will understand. Quantum computing is very difficult in that way, and that's what I sort of came away from that video with as well. It's like, okay, little magnets with little bags of magnetic stuff in them that they can manipulate the magnetic fields and make them move around. I'm still lost. Like, I still don't quite know. So, I mean, I'm working hard on it. If you have any insight, if you know anybody involved in that project, I would love to do an hour-long show, just those guys. And there's 8 other of those projects on this website. We're going back to that. I got 15 minutes left. I doubt we'll get to all of them. And there's a whole article here. Rotating magnetic field that acts as a clock to synchronize all of the droplets. All right, let's actually share this screen again one more time. You on Periscope will just get to hear me kind of reading it because it's too hard to hold it steady. Clocks play an integral role in nearly every modern convenience, from smartphones to airplanes, computers, TVs. Most of these computer programs operate on a series of simultaneous operations, all functioning seamlessly through the use of a clock, ensuring that each operation stops and starts exactly when it's supposed to. Okay. While most of the focus in cutting-edge computer engineering has been on quantum computing, hello, just saying that a second ago, the group of researchers at Stanford began creating their machine because of the possible implications it could have on the physical world. Like, I wish they could I wish they could condense it into a little bit more of a on the ground, feet on the ground kind of what it could do, you know, even if it were just purely theoretical and off 500 years in the future. I still don't really get it. The group explained one of the biggest potential applications of the technology could be in biology labs around the country, as the computer itself can become a high throughput chemistry lab, essentially a high output, you know, chemistry lab, high production of certain chemicals, whatever. This would let researchers and lab techs avoid running reactions in bulk test tubes and instead use each droplet to carry some chemicals and become its own test tube. I have so many questions that I can't, I mean, I literally know so little about it, I can't formulate a question. Let's read this lab biolim. Well, let's look at the last photo in this series. Oh, I see. That's just the contest. Okay, so we've been through all of them. Let's go back to the world's first lab-grown biolim. All right, you're gonna have to look at this with me. This is not gross like this biodegradable blood vessel, but I have a sense that if you're a little sensitive toward limbs or such things, maybe this could gross you out. I don't know. This is a researcher at Massachusetts General that has developed an experimental technique used possibly to create complex tissues and possibly whole bioartificial organ replacements. There's a video here. Let's look at it. Ott Laboratory, composite tissue decellularization. This is only 19 seconds. Oh my God. So they're growing this. What is this? It is a limb. Oh, oh my God. That was a rat claw. Hold on. Liquid's kind of dripping off of it, but look, that is the little claw, the little hand of a rat. Holy shit. I'm sorry for being so sort of like terrified / blown away by that, but the article says for a salamander or starfish, it's no big deal to lose a limb. They just grow a new one. They're working in the lab to accomplish the same feat for other animals. Recently, this team has reportedly created the world's first lab-grown biolimb, a rat leg that can circulate blood and respond to stimuli. Oh my God. Am I nuts? Is that a little creepy / amazingly awesome? Maybe a little more on the creepy side, maybe a little more on the awesome side, depending on how easily creeped out you are. But they grew a rat leg. It's sort of like the time you saw, many of us have seen the image of the ear. I think it was a human ear grafted onto a rat, like the back of a mouse or a rat, to keep it alive. while they were doing a transplant or something like that. That was a creepy visualization that once you've seen it, you can never unsee it. I feel like I will never unsee that, but because of how awesome the potential is, I'm okay with having that tattooed on my brain. Let's go back to the previous ones. I don't want to do the bloody ones with the blood vessels and the super nonstick coating. Let's look at the graphene electrical ink. Is there like an article here we can look at? 3D printed aerogels improve energy storage. That sounds blood-free. April 22nd issue of Nature Communications. 3D printed graphene aerogels have high surface area, excellent electrical conductivity, lightweight, blah, blah, blah. Aerogel is a synthetic, porous, ultralight material derived from a gel in which the liquid component has been replaced with a gas. It's often also referred to as liquid smoke. There is a material that you buy in the supermarket to flavor meat called liquid smoke. My dad did not cook any meat without it for like 2 decades. And this is obviously not that. This is obviously different. I just felt like I'm amused by that sort of slang term for whatever that material is. But back to the article. Previous attempts at creating bulk graphene aerogels produced a random pore structure. Now they can sort of make it specific. Again, what are the... Hey, Joshua Kuntz is one of the Lawrence Livermore Lab researchers. Adapting the 3D printing technique to aerogels makes it possible to fabricate countless complex aerogel architectures for applications such as, here we go, mechanical properties and compressibility. Huh? All right. I'm not necessarily as into that. Let's look at the one. This one is, because it includes in the title Terminator 2, it's kind of a little bit more dazzling, I feel like. Hey, and if it, I mean, maybe it was actually inspired by the movie Terminator 2, for all I know. UNC, Chapel Hill in North Carolina, Professor touts its new Terminator 2 inspired clip technology. It promises printing speeds many times faster than conventional 3D printers. Okay, picture a polymer object literally rising out of a pool of liquid media in minutes rather than hours. That's what the scientists are working on. Continuous liquid interface production, or CLIP. Why do they always have to make it into a word? I don't know. Like, I always wonder, do they reject other acronyms because they don't form words, or abbreviations, I should say, in favor of one that is an acronym that forms a word? I don't know. Why couldn't we make a okay, I see. This is how it was inspired by Terminator 2. The technology was actually inspired by the movie Terminator 2 and the way the next generation T-1000 robot assassin rises out of a puddle of material. Why couldn't a 3D printer operate in this fashion, where you have an object arise out of a puddle in essentially real time with essentially no waste to make a great object? That's a lot more sort of on the ground and sort of understandable and digestible and realizable. It's in the March 20 print issue of Science magazine, or I say journal. Using carbon 3D, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I mean, it may be the future. That may be one thing. That's pretty interesting, if not wildly gross out and exciting in the way graphene electrical ink was kind of non-energizing, not all that fascinating and, you know, awe-inspiring, and also not gross in the way that the other one is. Let's go back to the original one, which was the one I've actually known about here, the ASU battery, the Origami Battery. Here we go, from ASU News. This team fuses art and engineering to create stretchable batteries. I wish they had a video. Oh, here we go, flex battery video. Bam. Arizona State University. Oh, wait, you're not seeing me.
There are imperative needs to develop novel energy storage devices for flexible and stretchable electronics, as well as emerging wearable electronics. At Arizona State University, we are inspired by the art of paper folding and cutting, known as kirigami, to develop stretchable lithium-ion batteries. The stretchable batteries are manufactured by a standard battery production approach, followed by designated folding and cutting. Here we will demonstrate that the Origami-based stretchable battery is able to power a Samsung Gear 2 smartwatch.
Oh my God.
First, we move the original battery from the Samsung smartwatch and replace it with our stretchable battery. The battery is sewn between two elastic straps on its two ends and wrapped around the wrist. Now we turn on the smartwatch.
Holy crap.
We are able to stretch the elastic strap and pull it from the wrist to the upper arm. The Samsung Gear 2 is working normally. When we bend and straighten the elbow, biceps stretch the battery and the Gear 2 continues to function normally, even playing a video.
I see. I do like the music.
Finally, we remove the stretchable battery from the elastic straps and stretch it directly while it powers the Gear 2. As this technology affects the wearable electronics business.
And such stretchable batteries could even be integrated into fabrics, including those used for clothing. So, okay. Again, super electrifying in a very real way. Really awesome kind of idea. And I like what they said at the end there. We're pretty much ready to scale this up immediately because it's completely compatible with traditional battery generation techniques, or however they said that. Now, I don't know. I guess the point is if you had an armband connected to your watch, you could extend your battery life for your smartwatch to days or weeks instead of hours. I don't know anybody who would really want an armband on their, I mean, you know, you won't. Here's the thing. I'm struggling with that. I love the idea. I'm not sure that it's quite as dazzling as it seemed at the beginning, you know, because they can flex but not stretch. I don't know. I mean, there's probably going to be the really cool applications of this will probably be several steps down the road, I feel like, right? It won't be that it's in this iteration useful or super duper sexy, but as they improve upon it and as they go several generations in and maybe get funding from big battery companies, whatever, it'll probably be really badass. Okay. Let's see. Injecting electronics. We got a minute here before we got to go. How about injecting electronics into the brain? Well, should we creep you out a little bit as we're about to leave you here? Why not? How about injecting electronics into the brain? This bright field image design shows mesh electronics being injected through a sub 100 micrometer inner diameter glass needle into aqueous solution. I'm just trying to sort of, oh, I see. They create injectable electronics in a process similar to the way microchips are etched. It starts out with a dissolvable layer, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the uses or possible applications. It's hard to say. They feel that has the potential to be revolutionary. It opens up a completely new frontier where we can explore the interface between electronic structures and biology. All right, well, if you've ever seen the Borg on Star Trek: The Next Generation, you're probably aware that there ought to be limits to the merging of biological and technological. But that said, pretty badass stuff for the Nerd News. Nerd News Monday. Got no calls this week. Do give me a call or a text. 310-776-COONS is the phone number. 310-776-5869. Follow me on YouTube here. Follow me on Google+. Please follow me on the Periscope. Whether you're watching live or on tape, I appreciate you being there. And join me next time for cBas After Dark in 24 hours, 23 hours now, since it's now 11 o'clock on the West Coast, 0600 GMT. We will join you at 10 o'clock on the West Coast, 0500 GMT. 23 hours from right now for Game Show Tuesday. Make it a great Tuesday, everyone. I'm cBas. This is cBas After Dark.